2009 NA of the 64 of the 4114 private Andrew Brady, you are found guilty.
Chief of Air Staff rules out sabotage over missing Alpha jet in the northeast.
Before the end of the week, we should be able to provide positive information as to the location and then the pilots.
Economic Community of West African States proposes long-term development plan to fight extreme poverty and insecurity among member nations.
Encouraging participation of Nigerian youth in competitive politics. What is the way forward?
All right, in May 1999, that's about 3 decades or so of military rule in Nigeria, came to an end. Well, not only did that usher in a process of democratic rule that has recorded 15 unbroken years of successful civilian administration, but most importantly for us, it has been a process largely driven by the youths. Or better put, the youth have been at the forefront of the electoral process.
And significantly, the youth constitute a larger percentage of Nigeria's population. But Claire, as many would argue, the percentage of the youth who are involved in competitive politics is quite negligible.
Even going further, Kingsley, there are those who also hold strongly the view that despite their experience, the youth are yet to be adequately recognized and assigned specific roles to play in the Nigerian political system.
Indeed, very strong views. But Claire, those views rather have given rise to all kinds of youth agitation in different parts of the country. It has also become an issue of public debate among interest groups who believe that the youth should be a major catalyst for political and the developmental process of any given society.
And as is opined, the youth are future leaders of any society, and so in that said, the Nigerian youth deserve a better opportunity in the political arena to enable them take their proper positions in the scheme of things. Now the question is, how can the youth be effectively integrated to participate competitively in party hierarchical structure as contestants? Today on Good Morning Nigeria, GMN will rely solely on the expertise and youthful experience of our guests, for who, of course, for answers. These are guests who have passed through, the thorny road to success. We will be relying on them for answers and the way forward. I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak, and Kingsley, going by the categorization, I don't know about international body, of course, which puts the age limit between, is it 18 and 35?
That's correct.
Do we qualify to be called the youth?
No, I'm well above. I'm well above that bracket. Perhaps our kids will qualify for that particular age categorization. It's usually the age of majority. That's not less than 15 sometimes if you bring it down, but not more than 35. And as you very well know, some questions have arisen in certain quarters when you see a person who pops up and says it's a youth leader, and when you check out his age, it's probably in his mid-40s or in his late 40s.
60s.
Well, of course, that's part of the mismanagement of the process. This is a very significant topic that we're taking a look at today. I say this because if you were to go back to the 1950s, you ask yourself this question: how old was Chief Anthony Nahoro when he made a proposal for Nigeria's independence? How old was Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe when he began the process? How old was Herbert Macaulay when they started the fight for Nigeria's independence? And of course, there's a very popular example, the late Ambassador M.T. Ubu. M.T. Ubu was made Nigeria's ambassador at the age of 26. You are unlikely to find that now. So this is a subject matter that we'll be looking at, that it's not a question of having youth at stocks, who often would disrupt the electoral and the democratic process. rather than active participants in competitive politics. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. I join Claire in welcoming you to Good Morning Nigeria, which is coming to you live on the network service of the NTA. Also on the program today, we'll be having business news, newspaper review, foreign scene, sports, as well as arts and entertainment. Claire, who takes the news?
Of course, we will be rounding off the news, the program this morning with arts and entertainment, and Joy Ngozi Chude will be, of course, on hand for us. But right now, it's time to join Joy Eyuata, who, by all standards, to me, is qualified to be called a youth. Joy.
Of course, I qualify to be called a youth. And let me also say that I believe you're as young as you feel. And I feel quite young. Hello. Good morning. Here is the main news on Good Morning Nigeria. The General Court-Martial of the Nigerian Army sitting in Mogadishu Cantonment has sentenced 12 soldiers to death for mutiny. The 12 soldiers who were serving in the northeastern part of Nigeria were found guilty of committing acts of mutiny and other offenses against the authority of the 7th Division of the Nigerian Army. Correspondent Stephanie Oja Nebife, who covered the judgment, has the rest of the story.
The Nigerian Army is currently tackling the activities of Boko Haram in the northeastern part of the country, where Nigerian Army troops is fully involved. During the operations, some soldiers were said to have committed various offenses which warranted the setting up of General Court-Martial headed by Brigadier General Chukwu Emeka Okonkwo. The court, which lasted for 2 months, had 18 soldiers on trial. Corporal Jasper Bredello and 10 others were arraigned on the 6-count charges, which are criminal conspiracy to commit mutiny, attempt to commit offenses, murder, disobedience to particular orders, insubordinate behavior, and false accusation, of which they were discharged and acquitted on the last 3-count charges and found guilty on the first 3-count charges and awarded life imprisonment on the conspiracy to commit mutiny and attempt to commit offense, murder.
96 NA/43/1027 Corporal David Musa, guilty. 2005 NA/57/3451 Lance Corporal Friday Onu, found guilty. 2009 NA/6248 Lance Corporal Igomu Emmanuel, you are found guilty. 2009 NA/64/4214 Private Andrew Gwede, you are found guilty.
For the case of mutiny, they were found guilty and sentenced to death by firing squad, which is subject to higher authorities' confirmation. On the second set of accused, which has Corporal David Lobot and 6 others, were arraigned for various offenses, with last Corporal Stephen Clement being found guilty for mutiny and also awarded death sentence by firing squad and 2 years imprisonment for insubordinate behavior. 5 of the accused persons in these categories were discharged and acquitted on all the charges against them. In the military world over, mutiny is a serious offense and attracts capital punishment. From the Mogadishu Cantonment, the venue of the court-martial in Abuja, Stephanie Oja Nebife, NTA News.
The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Ademola Amosu, has ruled out sabotage over the missing Alpha jet on routine operations last weekend in the Northeast. Air Marshal Amosu disclosed this to correspondents after a crucial meeting with Vice President Mohammed Namadi Sambo.
In the aviation, we have specific information that we ought to have to make the search easy. But the information we're getting from the citizens good, but not sufficient, good enough for us to pinpoint the area of, define the area of search. But we have an idea of where the aircraft could be. Don't forget, it's the open Sahel. It looks, some people may think it's easy, but in the open Sahel, sometimes it's even very challenging. A human being standing may look like a tree. And again, the area we're talking about is we have operations going on there. you have limitations as to how low you can go to conduct the search.
Meanwhile, there are strong indications that the critical security situation in the northeastern part of the country will dominate discussions at plenary when the Senate resumes from its long vacation today. The Chairman, Senate Committee on Rules and Business, Senator Ita Enang, who dropped the hint while speaking to NTA News, described the situation there as worrisome and intolerable in spite of the emergency rule.
We are concerned about the welfare of Nigerians in those territories that are being attacked. We've done all we could and we'll keep doing as much as we can that lays within our power. We swore to defend the Constitution and defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria, and what is happening in these areas is a challenge to the territorial integrity of Nigeria, and the Senate will give due attention to it.
It is not a hopeless situation. When situations get to this level, you always look back on history to try to see if you can dig up solutions. The Senate will never sleep when such a serious issue is facing our country.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is also reconvening today after a 2-month recess. The House will equally be attending to the issues of security of lives and property in the land. Constitution amendment will be given priority, with it being presented to the 36 states' houses of assembly for adoption.
The conference committee will sit and bring final copy of the draft amendment of the Constitution, which will now be transmitted to the 36 states of the Federation.
The issue of the Electoral Act, being that the elections are around the corner, so naturally there are some issues which has to do with the election, and these issues are going to be thrashed out so that at the end of the day we can be able to have a successful election coming 2015.
The Northern Elders Council has affirmed that the Arewa Consultative Forum's recent statement on President Goodluck Jonathan does not in any way represent general opinion in the North or the position of a majority of the Northern leadership to the Jonathan administration. The chairman of the council, Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, at a press briefing in Abuja, pledged more support to the federal government, saying the issue of security is of grave concern to all Nigerians.
All well-meaning Northerners in particular and Nigerians in general to appreciate the sacrifice of the security agencies and the heroic armed forces personnel to end the menace of insecurity and provide succor to internally displaced persons.
The Northern Elders Council joined the Arewa Consultative Forum leadership to appreciate the efforts of the present administration.
Should have widely consulted, and especially with the key managers of the security establishment, who are eminent Northerners and who are in the front line in the fight against Boko Haram.
The Defense Headquarters has stated that the Chief of Defense Staff, Air Marshal Alex Bade, does not operate any Facebook account, either official or private. The Defense Headquarters therefore dissociates the office from any Facebook accounts being paraded. A statement by the Director of Defense Information, Major General Chris Olukolade, says any correspondence or exchange of messages on the platform has nothing to do with the office or person of the Chief of Defense Staff. In another development, the Ministry of State for Defense, Musliu Obanikoro, has called on Nigerians to boost the morale of the Nigerian Armed Forces in its bid to win the war against insurgency. Senator Obanikoro made the call while launching the Support Our Troops Foundation in Abuja. Senator Obanikoro said the war against insurgency should be a collective responsibility of all Nigerians.
The sacrifice of our troops in their efforts to protect and defend the territorial integrity of our nation is a commitment to the service of Nigeria.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is working on a long-term development plan to fight extreme poverty, insecurity, and consolidate democratic ideals among member nations. President of the ECOWAS Commission, Kadre Desire Ouedraogo, made the declaration at the opening of the 10th edition of the ECOWAS Development Partners Annual Coordination Meeting holding in Abuja. Mr. Kadre Desire said that attention should be given to address the impact of Ebola on the region's public health sector and the economy. He acknowledged the support of development partners and called on the governments of member states to support global efforts to arrest the epidemic and combat insecurity in the region.
The sub-region, ranging from political to humanitarian emergencies, including, as you've mentioned, Mr. President, the outbreak of the epidemic Ebola virus. ECOWAS has proven to be a worthy and trusted partner. A partner for good governance, for accountability, peace and stability.
These talks give us some hope that all parties will find ways and means to address the insurgency in North Mali, to agree on a peace agreement, and will work together to fight terrorism in full recognition of the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of the country.
The Federal Road Safety Corps has recorded a decrease of almost 5% in the rate of road crashes within the second quarter as against the first quarter of this year. The Corps Marshal of the FRSC, Boboye Oyeyemi, who gave the figure during the conference of unit commanders in Abuja, also revealed that the Corps has recorded 18% decrease in the number of fatalities within the second quarter, which is equivalent to 1,332 deaths as against 1,640 in the first quarter of 2014. The Corps Marshal has urged the unit commanders to step up efforts in stemming the tide of road crashes in the country.
We started this a few weeks ago by having a strategic session with the zonal sector command, first with the management, and to assess where we're coming from, where we are, what we want to do. And the mandate given to us by Mr. President, one, we have keyed into the transformation agenda, and secondly, is also for us to, for the public, Nigerians, to know we're capable of what we are doing.
And that's the main news this morning. And I'll hand you back to Kingsley and Claire.
Okay, thank you very much there, Joy, for the news this morning. This is Good Morning Nigeria. Business news is next after this time out.
It's cooking. Let's help her. Wait! My mama says before touching food, you should wash your hands with soap. But my hands are clean. Can't see germs, but they're everywhere. Look under special blue light. To protect against germs, I recommend regularly use soap. Safeguard removes millions of germs, and additionally, it inhibits regrowth of germs that might cause skin rashes for hours. That is why me, mommy, daddy, and my brother regularly use Safeguard.
Supported by the African Medical Association. Have called our women because our pastoral land should be our pastoral. Those who are going to be farmers, to be farmers.
On the TV,
can't you see us in the meeting?
Wallahi, I see plenty people. Wallahi, they share one times. I don't go share again. Wallahi.
Musa, TV.
On the TV.
Wonderful. Wallahi, we must do our most. Everybody must attend our town rally in North Central, Northwest, and Northeastern Zone.
Yo! I was will cry go around the town. Wallahi, at once. Yeah, kowa jama'a mai gari yana gayyatar kowa da kowa a fada. Mai gari ya gaishe ku. If you are informed, ko da yaro jariri na goye a baya. Mai gari matin you a majalisa an jima saboda ana gayyatar kowa.
Oh yeah, turn Northern Nigerian rallies. Ya fara sosai fa. Not Central people, not West people, not people. The town rally they will not to now. Saturday, September 13th, Saturday, September 20th, and Saturday, September 27th. Kawaii. President Goodluck Jonathan don't do us better. Wallahi, make we join other multitudes of Nigerians who thank him well and join for the demand. Town Northern Nigerian rallies. Now we go begin rally the main rally. Well past other rallies.
Continue your good work, Nigeria support you.
This message is brought you courtesy Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Down for one vision, Nigeria.
All right, business is next, but Kingsley, just to digress a little bit, although still within the framework of business, sometime on this program we talked about the stability within the petroleum sector, and of course the newscaster then, Hawa Salihu, was here to talk about the fact that you could now drive into any of the filling stations, get your fuel. But just yesterday, we discovered that here in the capital city, the long queues resurfaced.
Well, I think it was more a question of panic buying, and the motorists were responding to the threat of a strike because of NNPC pension and the removal of NNPC staff from the pension scheme. But last night, the NNPC itself also issued a statement that discussions were ongoing and that there's no need for any panic buying. When I was coming to the studios this morning, I found that on some of the routes, the queues were much shorter. Much shorter. I don't think it calls for any panic
buying. I think we should alert the public there, because yesterday was, the long queues, and I was almost.
The queues actually came about in the evening, around about 5 o'clock or so, and of course there was a heavy rainfall, after that. So it's there's no need for any panic. We've had steady supplies of refined petroleum products, for the last couple of years, and I think all of these issues can be sorted out very quickly.
All right, so you've heard it there. The information Kingsley just gave us is that there is no need for panic buying of fuel. So please, Nigeria, take it easy. Okay, let's look at the main business news now this morning. And Central Bank of Nigeria reschedules monetary policy meeting as financial activities increase in the country. Now, the Nigerian Stock Exchange makes a good start this week, achieving a marginal growth of 0.24% on Monday. Plus, Air France in trouble as pilots embark on a week-long strike. Let's have all the details with Leah Katun Babatunde.
Hello and welcome to the business segment of this show. The 24th meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee MPC, earlier scheduled to hold on September 22 and 23, 2014, is now to hold Thursday, September 18 and Friday, September 19, 2014. This was contained in a circular by the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN to all stakeholders. The MPC will have to consider current economic trends, even as the National Bureau of Statistics NBS states that the Consumer Price Index CPI, which measures inflation, recorded an uptick from the previous month. Latest figures by the Bureau indicates that prices rose by 8.5% year-on-year, up 0.2 percentage points from 8.3% recorded in July. This was the sixth consecutive month of a faster increase in the pace of the headline index relative to the previous month. The faster pace of price increases recorded in the headline index in August was as a result of increases in the 12 major classification of individual consumption by purpose divisions that yields a headline index. The food index edged higher to 10% in August from 9.9% recorded in July. Prices were pushed higher as a result of higher prices in a broad array of food groups that contribute to the index. Increases in prices in the all items less farm products or cost sub-index continued to be muted for the second consecutive month after increasing at a faster pace for the previous 3 months. Prices rose by 6.1% year-on-year, 0.9 percentage points lower from the rate recorded in July. The percentage change in the average composite CPI for the 12-month period ending in August over the average of the CPI for the previous 12-month period was recorded at 8%, unchanged from the average 12-month rate of change recorded in July 2014. And still with the NBS, the Nigerian economy attracted total investments of $9.71 billion or 1.6 trillion naira in the first half of this year. Figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics showed that for the first quarter of 2014, the economy attracted investment worth $3.9 billion and the second quarter $5.8 billion. The report states further that capital imported in the second quarter of 2014 was at a value of $5.8 billion. It increased by $1.89 billion or 48.64% from $3.9 billion recorded in the opening quarter of this year. The report added that the investment came from three main sources: foreign direct investment, portfolio investment, and other investments. According to Business Type, the report said shares continue to attract the highest foreign capital into Nigeria, with $3.39 billion, or 58.52% of the total capital imported in the second quarter of 2014. This was followed by the financial sector with investment of $723.1 million, or 12.46% for the second quarter. In terms of destination, the report stated that Lagos continued to outpace other states in its capital receipt with $5.7 billion, or 98.34% of the second quarter. The United Kingdom, according to the report, provided the greatest source of capital imported into Nigeria with $3.97 billion, or 68.46% of the total coming in from the country in the second quarter. Air France pilots began a one-week strike over company plans to cut costs to recapture market share from budget airlines on Monday. Air France said on its website it expected to operate 48% of its flights on Monday, but last-minute disturbances are not excluded. Air France Chief Executive Frédéric Gagey said the strike, which could run until September 22, would cost the airline between 10 and 15 million euros a day. The main pilots union at Air France have called for strikes from September 15 to 22, and on Tuesday, Lufthansa pilots are expected to hold an 8-hour strike, their fourth in 3 weeks, in a dispute over an early retirement scheme. And before we go, let's take a look at figures from the Nigerian Stock Exchange, where major indicators began the week in the green. And that is it from this end. Good Morning Nigeria will continue in a while. My name is Leah Katung Babatunde.
Okay, thank you for being with us. We are having a newspaper review right now. As usual, Bayo Atoyebi is right here with us in the studios. And Bayo, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. We begin our review this morning by way of subject matter. And 3 papers that I have, and Claire has others as well, 3 papers have a common lead story on their front page. The papers are Vanguard, Daily Trust, and The Nation. And the story has to do with the arrest of 2 Nigerians and an Israeli with $9.3 million in cash in South Africa. So the first paper we'll be taking is Vanguard. Vanguard says 2 Nigerians with 9.3 million naira cash held in South Africa. There are 3 riders there, 1 Israeli, 2, and cash packed in 3 suitcases. Say they are in South Africa to buy arms for security services and chartered plane registered in the U.S. Just the photograph on the front page there is taken also from Lanseria Airport in Johannesburg in South Africa, and that's the Bombardier Challenger plane. Then also Daily Trust. Daily Trust has the same headline: 2 Nigerians smuggle $9.3 million into South Africa, and the 2 riders there, money packed in suitcases and ferried in business jet. And Customs Nama Fan, we have no further details. Very elaborate front page photograph also on the front page there of Daily Trust. The jet is there, and of course that's a Google Map photo of the airport. $9.3 million, that's 1.5 billion naira in cash. 3 suitcases filled with cash, and Challenger 600 model, 2 Nigerians, 1 Israeli. The same thing also with the Nation newspaper. The Nation says South Africa seizes $9.3 million from 2 Nigerians and an Israeli. Presidency, that's right, that demands report from military attaché in Pretoria. That's on the front page of the Nation. Of course, also on the front page of the Nation, there is a photograph taken from the court-martial. So the caption is, some of the soldiers are waiting their verdict after the court-martial at Sani Abacha barracks yesterday. In our major bulletin this morning, you heard that some of the soldiers, of course, have been sentenced to death for mutiny. Now, those are the major highlights of the stories on the front page. Then, of course, from the front page of Vanguard also is a follow-up on the synagogue building, which pancaked into rubble last weekend. Death toll rises to 49, according to the paper. Of course, this was published last night. Rescue operation ends today. Also on the front page of Vanguard, lawyers seek end to crisis in Rivers Judiciary. And just below the name flag of the paper, we have information on missing fighter jet, according to Chief of Air Staff. Then also on the front page of Daily Trust, it's a story below the name flag, Daily Trust. Nasarawa Assembly begins fresh probe of Al Makura, and a business copy there. Qatar National Bank buys more stake in EcoBank. Basically, I think those are the stories that will be taken right now. Claire?
Okay, we turn to leadership front page quickly. Leadership leads with a bold story. Mutiny. 12 soldiers sentenced to death, and they had some riders. 4 others discharged and acquitted. 1 gets 28 days imprisonment. Details on page 5. Mutiny. 12 soldiers sentenced to death, and the riders are there. And just below that, there is a story, of course, it's another lit story on the front page of the leadership. Police commissioner arrests Danjuma Goje in Gombe. Details are on page 6. That's the main story on the leadership. Quickly turning over to the People's Daily. And the People's Daily leads with North rejects INEC's 30,000 new polling units. North rejects INEC's 30,000 new polling units, and it writes with, says it is against the region's interest. Details are on page 2. And just a picture story trending there are 2 senators representing Borno, Senator Ahmed Zana Fed and with Senator Ali Ndume, during the visit to, of course, to this paper in Abuja yesterday. But again, trending on the front page, mutiny. People's Daily puts the figure at 17 soldiers may hang. 17 soldiers may hang as Boko Haram kidnaps 50 women, many children. Details are on page 2. Let's quickly take you just below the masthead. Trending stories on the front page. Police detained, release Goje in Gombe. Details on page 5. Online registration is for security of core members, NYSC. Page 3, and we've a clue on missing jets whereabouts, and it's coming from Air Force Chief. Details are on page 3. Now quickly to the New Telegraph newspaper. A New Telegraph leads with Boko Haram reps to probe security budget, and it's riding with sect abducts women, children in Adamawa. The details are on page 3. And just above that lead story below the masthead, federal government considers $20 billion offers to sell transmission assets. Of course, there are details. The story continued on page 4. And then coming down, you have a picture story. But the trending story on the front page also of New Telegraph, I tamed Amechi, says police chief. Mbu. Okay, these are the lead stories from the 3 papers. I think we'll just go over to Mr. Tebi to quickly.
Yes, thank you. With the latest on the collapsed building in Lagos, as of this morning, the death toll had reached 50, and this is day 5 since the building collapsed. I think the rescue operations are getting towards its end, and as at yesterday, they brought in sniffer dogs to try and see whether there are still people surviving there and round up the whole exercise. But up till this moment, the report of Lagos State government about the status of the building, whether it was properly or legally built, a 2-story building that was accentuated to 5 or 6 story, is also a cause of worry. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Adesola Amusu, has confirmed that the Sahel area has been a difficult terrain, but that notwithstanding, they are in control of the airspace between Maiduguri and Yola. And there are also indications that the pilots may have survived because apparently there are indications of ejections. But however, they have expressed appreciation with the information coming from the people in the area. Be that as it may, they are making arrangements with Niger, Cameroon, and Chad to try and locate the body. Also related to the soldiers is the issue of mutiny. You will recall that 18 soldiers were charged with mutiny, and this is why probably the last time, if you remember, the Olukolade, the defense headquarters brief person, cautioned about the media happened on mutiny. Mutiny is a very, very serious crime in the military. And now, from the 18 that were apprehended, 12 have been sentenced to death, 5 of them have been discharged, and 1 is to serve, I think, 28 days labor punishment with hard labor. The other related issue with soldiers also is that soldiers were being evacuated from Benin, apparently due for training at Kotongora, but on reaching between Okene and Lokoja, they came under fire, and it's suspected to be insurgents. Only 4 of them were injured, but the soldiers were able to rebuff them. But you recall that this is the second time such is happening about that axis, and it's a matter of concern for worrying. And if you follow up through, between the last 4 days, there have been reports of attacks by armed militants in Taraba, in Nasarawa, and the last one again is in Plateau. The Plateau one is quite pathetic. A woman, her 2 children, and some members of their family have been killed. And so there is need to, again, the heightened security about these areas. The issue about schools resumption. Following the meeting held at the National Assembly between the National Union of Teachers, has expressed their strong reservation about resumption. They are seeking for a shift in date, provided so that safety measures could be provided before schools will resume. But however, during the review yesterday, the Nigeria Medical Association came with some stringent demands: resuscitation of infection diseases hospital in 36 states of the Federation, border health services, schools to also have improved health facilities. However, they considered after a review with the Ministry of Health that from all indications, there is no Ebola virus in Lagos, in Enugu, and in Port Harcourt. And the last patient they had was taken in August 29th. And from their records, he was discharged on September 9th. And looking at September 16th, which is supposed to have been the 21-day incubation period, it is safe to say that Nigeria is now Ebola-free, and then they now have approved of the date to resume. But NUT is to make a decision between now and Monday to know whether or not their members will resume. Of course, it is already still news that $9.3 million in 100 Naira notes were apprehended at the airports in South Africa.
Is it 100 Naira or?
$100, sorry, $100 notes. 100, well, I'm used to saying Naira. $100 notes were apprehended. And they said this was not disclosed, it was not declared, and it was above the legal limit. The one begin to ask questions: at what point did they depart from Nigeria? Already the immigration and the custom are disowning any information about that awareness. Those are the trending.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. One of the online news outlets last night actually indicated the name of the Israeli, but the names of the Nigerians were not disclosed, and the bloggers were asking for the proper identity of the Nigerians as well. I mean, of course, they will have to be dealt with according to South African law.
But talking about online reminds me that there's another controversy brewing about the National Youth Service Corps.
NYS, the 4,000 Naira.
Online registration, 4,000 Naira for every youth corps. And I think we need to be very careful. We have not just come out of one at the Ministry of Internal Affairs with the recruitment at the prisons, and what you saw. You have an agency registered working on behalf of a government agency soliciting for funds, and now you have a situation whereby you are going to have a computer measure for registering NYSC, and everybody has to pay 4,000.
4,000. And I'm even worried about the demand for 4,000 naira from you.
You have been you get your call-up letter from your university after they have certified that you have properly graduated. It is the registrar office that issues you the cause letter that come from the NYSC, but we need to be very careful. You see, in the past, some were alleging that the contractor was the order of the day. They used to call it contractocracy. Now it's becoming consultant. Everything you consult it out, and it's becoming a consultantocracy.
Yeah, well, and sometimes it's dressed up in elegant language as sourcing. But there is a story on the front page of the National Mirror. The National Mirror on its front page says online registration not compulsory. That's according to the NYSC. Details of that story can be found on page 6. Online registration not compulsory. That's according to the NYSC. And then
it has another. This paper tells us that the NYSC is given, the reason for online registration, and it says it's basically for security reasons. That's the People's Daily, has an explanation coming from the NYSC why it is, demanding for online registration. But basically, Kingsley, if I may, read out a portion of that. It says, given the security challenge in some states of the Federation and the observed cumbersome process of collection of call-up letters in most institutions, the idea was conceived to remove all impediments that make the mobilization process a nightmare for the graduates. The NYSC Director, Press and Public Relations, Mrs. Olubumi Adebibe, is quoted here to have said yesterday.
Okay. The other paper we'll be taking a look at is Nigerian Pilots, and also we'll be taking a look also at Daily Newswatch. On the front page of Nigerian Pilot, just below the name flag, defection, that's the kicker. Appeal Court sacks APC representative. Details to be found on page 4. The House of Reps member was from Ondo State, Honorable Abegunde. He defected from Labour Party to APC. Appeal Court has sacked him. Details on page 4. Rivers Chief Judge crisis. Lawyers beg CJN. Details will be found on page 6. CJN, of course, stands for Chief Justice of Nigeria. Insecurity, that's the lead story. ACF blasts Northern Governance. ACF, Arewa Consultative Forum, and then rejects new polling units by INEC and ready to work with other Nigerians. Details on page 4. That story, of course, is similar to what you have on the front page also of Daily Newswatch. 2015, that's the lead story of Daily Newswatch. ACF under fire over Jonathan. And the writer says, Husseini Yakese insists president deserves re-election. And two other stories that one of them Claire read out earlier. On top there, just above the name flag. Federal government to net 3.2 trillion naira from TCN's asset sale. TCN is Transmission Company of Nigeria. And just below, at the foot of the front page, Ebola, NMA makes U-turn, supports September 22nd schools reopening.
Okay, the last set of papers we have all have similar lead stories. The Union, Daily Sun, and just debuting this morning, Business Day. We'll just take a quick look at the front page of Business Day. But Daily Sun talks about Northern elders at war over Jonathan, and it writes with as ACF slams ex-leaders in the Kasai carpets Arewa. There is a picture story there of a traffic gridlock, but not necessarily from the panic buying of fuel yesterday. The reason for this was not given, but it's there on the front page.
That's over the level crossing.
Okay.
Level crossing on the Kubwa Expressway.
Okay, all right, thank you, Kingsley. And then the Union, of course, is talking about Cameroon, Chad, and Niger joint set for the missing fighter jet, and the white government is dismissing sabotage. But trending on the front page of the Union there, just below the picture story, synagogue, police deploy sniffer dogs as death toll hits 49. But again, Mr. Toyibi has just told us that as of this morning, the latest figure we have is 50. Let's quickly take a look at the front page of Business Day. NNPC looks to PPP option for 5 billion naira gas pipeline project. Okay, I'm told that's the much time we have for this paper. Mr. Toyibi, I don't know. I don't think you have enough time to look at these other ones.
All right. Okay.
Director, do we have time? All right. Thank you, Mr. Baya Toyibi.
Thank you for having me.
We'll look forward to having you tomorrow. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we'll be looking at a very important matter here. And earlier on, Joy expanded the age category of those who qualify to be called the youth. But we'll be speaking to our guest later on this program. Stay with us.
running on the network service of the NTA from the stable of the NTA Educational Television. This quarter, a wide variety of educational programs. Farm Bus, Tuesdays 5:30 p.m. It is fun-filled and educative for children ages 5 to 11. Work It Out, Saturdays 9 a.m. Work It Out is a mathematics quiz program for students of junior secondary schools. Take a Step, Tuesdays 6 p.m. with a repeat broadcast on Sunday at 10 a.m. Take a Step is a general purpose quiz program for students in senior secondary schools. Young Inventors, join the Young Inventors every Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Young Inventors encourages and celebrates creativity, ingenuity, and originality in children and young adults. It's a bouquet of active participation, learning, and being educated in an interesting way.
Nigeria, we the people decree that the power of evil secrecy shall fail.
All Nigerians should understand that a divided Nigeria can only mean catastrophic consequences for the entire black race. We all African countries count on you, and you are our beacon of hope.
That when Nigeria sneezes, all of us will catch cold.
All of us who look to Nigeria for lessons and inspiration never cease to thank God for this wonderful gift to Africa.
Nigeria enjoys the respect, the admiration, the friendship, and the hope of an entire continent.
The powerhouse of Africa.
Nigeria.
Unite and build Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
A message from protectors of Nigerian posterity.
Thank you for joining us. You're watching GMN, Good Morning Nigeria, on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're talking about youth now. Now, the common known definition of a youth is very youthful, able-bodied persons, so fall within the ages of 15 and 35. And Usman Minjibur, Mohammed Minjibur tells us that sometimes this age bracket could be stretched to reach those within the ages of 44. Well, but this set of people are set to constitute about 50% of the current projected Nigeria's population of 160 or 70, 69 or about 170 million. However, only a few of these category of persons are seen to participate actively or competitively in the nation's political process. In this background, Usman Mohammed Minjibur takes a look at the ratio involved.
This world demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the life of ease. This is a vote of confidence passed on the youth for their vigor and courage to lead by Robert Kennedy, former American senator, in his 1966 Day of Affirmation speech. Under various cultures, laws and conventions, such as UNESCO, youth are defined as persons within the ages of 15 and 35. Globally, this set of people are estimated at about 4 billion, representing over 50% of the world population. A survey of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO shows that about 90% of this youthful population lives in emerging and developing economies, particularly in Middle East and Africa. In Nigeria, for instance, out of the current projected population of 169 million, young people account for over 43% of the population. Experts, therefore, stress the dire need to engage these youth in social, political, and economic transformation. The idea of youth participation has become a popular part of contemporary political talk in every part of the world. However, in Africa, including Nigeria, youth participation in politics is said to be consistently low in the last 1 decade. Some of the indicators for this include absence of youth in party hierarchical structure as contestants and as voters. Unfortunately, their participation often begins during electioneering campaigns and rallies, as well as at polls, and ends with the violence after announcement of election results.
because initially, during the initial days of our democracy, youths were being used as thugs. But with the perfection of the INEC processes, the electoral processes, you could see that thugs are going to be, they will not be used. They will not, their impact will not be much in future elections.
Political analysts are of the view that opportunities should be provided for this big population to have a voice in the nation's decision-making process.
When you look at the history, the former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, started ruling this country at the age of 29. And if he should make it at that time, I don't see the reason why the present youth cannot be involved in the governance of this country.
At the national conference, we took serious note on this matter, and that's why we've drastically reduced the age limit for those who are contesting for House of Assembly, governor, down up to president.
This, they believe, will not only make them meaningful members of the society, but also help develop their leadership skills as better future leaders who will acquire more exposure and sagacity to lead the country.
All right, thank you there for that background. Just a slight correction. General Yakubu Gowon, when he became Nigeria's military head of state on the 1st of August 1966, was not 29 years old, he was 32. When he left office, he was removed following the coup of July 29, 1975. At the time, he was 41 years old. Right now, joining us is Honorable Daniel Effiong Asukwo. He's a member of the House of Representatives, and he represents Akampa Biase Federal Constituency of Cross River State. Honorable, would like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You were, at an earlier stage in your political career, chairman of a local government. Mm-hmm. And the key focus of our conversation this morning is on how to get the youth to be more actively engaged in competitive politics, rather than being seen as the expendable cannon fodder by the older generation by way of either thuggery or irrelevance, as it were. What, in your opinion, is the locus of the Nigerian youth today in competitive politics? Let's take it from there.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to the program. I would like, in most cases, to use myself as an example. I believe that the focus should be giving opportunity to the youthful generation of our country today to also exhibit their own ability to serve the people in the capacities which the Nigerian populace will make it possible for them to. It is unfortunate that the perception is that the youthful, the bulk of the youths of this country are used, as I overheard in the program you were transmitting some minutes ago, that most of our use as talks. It is because the society itself, which have actually had leaders who don't want to vacate the stage, being perpetually changing from one position to the other, I mean, like recycling themselves. And so in such a situation, you see that the top is actually overloaded. And of course, the lower part of it, it's, saturated with people who are struggling to want to have opportunity to serve, and those opportunities are not there. It's unfortunate that there are so many variables that make up this situation in Nigeria. It's a very expensive venture today to vie for an office, an elective office in Nigeria. You can imagine you want to be a local government chairman. You can imagine the enormous resources you need to apply, or you want to go to the State House or the House of Representatives or Senate or governor. It's actually almost beyond the reach of a normal youth, except you have a lot of the big goons who, of course, as I say, recycle themselves. They are the ones with the money. They are the ones with the resources. They are the ones who are actually decision makers. So It is unfortunate, but I think that we're getting to a stage in this country with the present reorganization that is going on in INEC, it's going on in society, there's awareness. If you actually watch what's going on with the town rallies, you realize that it's the active youths that are actually organizing these rallies to showcase the effective performance of the government, the transformation agenda and all that. And I believe that one good turn deserves another. If Nigeria has given this opportunity to use to showcase what the elders are doing or what the leaders are doing, they should also make space for them, whether by godfatherism or whatever, to also have opportunity to serve them. Yes.
We have quite a lot to talk about in this process. Now, the common belief is that youths who have been able to attain positions of influence, either come from very influential background or have, the usual godfather, figure and all that. But again, we know that it's not an easy process. It's not an easy road to come, particularly if you're from a very lowly background, very humble background. So we'd like you to share with us. You're one of the very few, who have had the opportunity to participate in the process and also affect the process. Share with us the defining moments. It hasn't been an easy route for you, has it?
No, it hasn't.
Yes, those defining moments for you.
Yes, actually I would use myself as an example. In 1998, there was a revolution. A revolution in sense, it's not a violent revolution, a revolution of youths who have served masters in the politics of my local government, the politics of Cross River. And luckily for me, I was opportune to be managing a family fortune, kind of family business then. And I have been involved in trying to be a counselor in 1994, 95, 96. I had served leaders in different capacities. And 1998, they came together and said, look, it's time for us who have been doing the work, it's time for us who have been used to do the work to also present ourselves and use the same energy and contacts that we have, been exposed to also serve our people. Yes, it was a very rough experience in the sense that there was so much blackmail. Oh, this kindergarten, boys, what are they going to do? They just want to go and, play in the place. They are not matured and all that. And I think that we actually proved the point, because all the contestants that contested against me, former commissioners, former chapter chairman of NRC and all that, we actually were able to floor them in the primaries. It's not because of anything, but because there was this resolve by the youths then to say, this is our time. We need to grab it. We need to be focused and all that. And because of the expectation that was out there, we made sure that we lived up to the bidding.
What qualities did you bring in the process? If you were considered a kindergarten in a political environment, what qualities did you, as a youth then, introduce?
Well, what we introduced was speak for yourself. Reach out to the people, present yourself, make them to understand that there must be change at this level, and the change starts by you giving another person an opportunity. And when we got there, we actually amazed them, because I still remember that when we were sworn in, most of those elders, after 1 year in office, I had like a town hall meeting where I got all of them together, and we actually, had to present our scorecard of what we had done and what we think we're going to do in the years ahead. And they were actually impressed, and that was the beginning of course, the change of perception of leadership for youths at that level. In my state, actually, it has been opportunity. We've seen a lot of those opportunities. I mean, you can remember Mbu. Mbu was about 30 when he became Minister of Defense. Even my former governor, Donald was in his 20s, late 20s, when he was a commissioner. The present Senate leader was 29, I guess, when he was commissioner, in the States. And even the present governor was 30 when he was a senator. So I'm sure that they all passed through this baby senator, baby governor, baby commissioner and all that. But it's always a good thing when you're being challenged that you're not able to do something. You actually tell yourself that you need to deliver on this thing. You need to make a difference. And I think that that personal conviction that you can deliver, you can actually change the perception of the people. You can make the people believe that the youths are not really thugs, they are not responsible. If they learn from the elders, like the saying, if you wash your hands clean, you eat with the older ones, with the elders. So I think that this perception that youths are only good for thuggery and all that, it is a continuous perception to put them out of the system. We have a lot of youths who are, of course, up to the bidding today, and they're doing very well. And I believe that if we can look at Nigeria in the last 50 years, look at what the contributions of the youth vis-a-vis the elders who are, with due apology, recycling themselves, you would see that there's absolutely a change. The trend is changing, and the performance level, it's more in favor of the youths, because of course they want to, you see, the youths want to try things that have not been tried. They want to take risk, but responsible risk anyway.
What is the potential or actual power or influence of the youth in the political process?
In Nigeria today, our population is our potential. Our population in the Nigerian scenario, it's our power. Our energy, the energy we have to put in, it's our power. The ability to take risk in line with global trend is our power. I also believe that the determination to succeed where others have failed is our power. These are strengths I believe the youth should not play with. And if you harness all of this together, I'm sure that it will be the best thing that could happen if you're given an opportunity to serve.
Actualizing those potentials is a key challenge. And one of the issues that occurred to me right away is the mentoring process.
Yes.
Are the youth being properly mentored by the gerontocrats, that's to say the old people who are in politics? Are the youth themselves also making themselves available for mentoring? And if so, what is the socialization process as you have found in the political arena?
Yeah, as I said, using myself as an example, waiting for the gerontocrats, as you call them, to completely allow themselves to be phased off from the system will never happen. It will never happen in the country. So the mentoring should be in the process where you're being called a tout, you're being called used to deliver what the elders or the leaders want. You need to stoop to conquer. You need to learn. Of course, learning, there are various things you should look out to learn. Some want to learn the bad attitudes, the bad attributes, the bad examples, but some also want to understand what makes that leader stand out. And if you are part of that process, you should be able to get something that you can use to also mentor yourself, as the case may be. So if they're not transferring power, you use the back door to grab power and make yourself available for the people. So I believe that the key thing is you need to be vigilant. You need to be, of course, as they say, you stoop to conquer. You need to be patient to the extent of not being patient all your life, waiting for one person to cycle himself over another, but patient to the point that you're sure that your face is being seen and known in the system enough for you to say, okay, it's time to also reach out to those who make up the numbers around you, to have the belief and the trust that you can make it. I mean, just like I used myself as an example, we had to come together, all of us that's been serving these people over time, and say, look, it's time to back out and face your own thing, and it's been success all the way.
Okay, Honorable Daniel Asokwo, we will stay with you, but right now we'll just turn our focus to Benin Network Studios, Benin, Edo State, where we have Dr. Chris Ekiyo. Dr. Chris Ekiyo is a former president of the youth wing of the Ijo National Congress, that's INC. He was the president of the IYC, Ijo National Congress, and presently chairman, Patani Local Government Council. Dr. Chris Ekiyo is a medical doctor, and I'm sure he's also a practicing medical doctor. Dr. Ekiyo, thank you for joining us in Benin City.
Thank you, Claire. Good morning. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, Dr. Ekiyo. Now, let me quickly take you up. I know you as a very, very active Niger Delta youth. You've participated very actively in most of the electoral processes, of course, within this democratic dispensation. And as a youth, you've seen agitations, by various youth groups, seeking one recognition, political recognition, or the other. You have passed through the process. Now you have opportunity to change the process. But quickly share with us, like we asked Honorable Daniel Asokwo here, the defining moments for you. And I know that certainly it hasn't been an easy route for you to get to the leadership position that you are in now. Quickly share those defining moments that you think we should, know with us.
Claire, first, I'd like to say that I do not subscribe to those people who say that youths are supposed to be political tools for others to ride up to the ladder for leadership. And then I blame that on the youths. I remember in 2007, I had said that if the youths provide the rules for which people get into power, then youths must begin to aspire to get power themselves and change the scenario. So most times I blame it on the youths who think that they don't want to take a chance or take the risk. So we have old people recycling themselves. Of course, power is not easily given. So the youth must rise up to that responsibility to dare the process. In 2011, of course, I ran for House of Reps against a much older brother. And of course, they know that it wasn't easy. But the youths rallied around me, there was awareness, and we were able to prove that with the youth we can create a lot of change. Now, I realized early also that no one can ride your back unless you bend forwards for them to do that. So I've always called on youth to say, look, we need to stand up and define for ourselves how we want our country to be run. And once we do that, then we begin to have ourselves more in power. What we have done is to settle for less as youths, to say, okay, because this person is older, let's just let them have it. No, we need to rise up and say, enough is enough, you need to give us a chance to provide leadership. And if you look at the current government, the very young ministers and commissioners are actually doubly active, and in terms of creating new awareness, in terms of reaching out, in terms of bridging the gap between government and the people. And I have a few of my friends who have been privileged to be appointed by Mr. President into very key positions. Take, for instance, the DG Master. The Master has been so proactive. The youngest have been appointed in that parastatal, but he's been so proactive that the Master is not something that we celebrate. It was almost a moribund parastatal, but this young guy, dynamic as he is, able to travel around, is able to bring up ideas. And so we think that the final moments for this country will be when we begin to have more younger people, more intelligent younger people participating in governance. What we have seen, a lot of old people with a lot of experiences of the past not daring to try new things because they're not used to the new ways and new order, not daring to go into expanding the frontiers beyond the conventional comfort. So there's conservativeness in government, and it's creating a problem for the system.
Dr. Ekiyo, who is speaking to us from the Benin Network Center, the quest for power is fine, but there has to be a purpose for political power. You look around today, I'm not saying that you should, or one expects rather, to find a uniform youth agenda for the country. But let's disaggregate the locus of power in this country and say to ourselves, what is that common thread that we see as a youth agenda for this country? Unfortunately, it's with difficulty that you look around for this. Is it that we are unable to articulate the key issues that we will use to make our country much better in the event that we acquire power as a youth?
The youth generally are not laid back. I know that I've led youth organizations and I've participated in a lot of youth movements. The point is that the youths have not been given a platform to express their vision collectively. The National Youth Council is not allowed to evolve. Other youth organizations are also they're micromanaged by those who have the resources. So integrity and focus is laid back in terms of serving the paymaster's interest in most of the youth organizations. But leaving youth on their own, I can tell you the Nigerian youth are able to create a thread of where our country should be in the future. And they have an agenda on the table. If you look at the National Political Conference, the amount of youth there were insignificant. So how are you going to hear the voices of the youth when it comes to national issues? They were subsumed by the voices of the very senior citizens, as it were. So what we are saying is that it's not that the youths do not have an agenda or a common thread towards a focal point. It's just that every time that the youths try, they are shut out because, like Honorable Dan said, they are seen as teaching young people, inexperienced, and their ideas are usually pushed on the side. Now, it takes ruggedity, hard effort to get the elders to believe in your vision. And I want to use myself as an example. In 2009, I became president of the Regional Youth Council in 2007, and my first call was to say, look, we can stop militancy in the Niger Delta. And I was going to get them to stop. So I went about the campaign. And then when President Goodluck, now then Vice President, brought in the idea and also gave us a platform to discuss with the then President Yaradua, of course, we led delegations there. I was one of the people there. And we were just 9. We're all youths, except, of course, Tiki Ogoriba, who was an elder. And we engaged the President severally in several meetings. And he gave us an opportunity. And when we listened, he had to agree that amnesty was the way out. Unfortunately, in that same process, we had army generals who had said, young man, you're too young to give us ideas of what to do. What do you know about wars and conflict and guns? Have you ever worked? And I said to them, you don't understand these things better than I do. Now, it took a President Yaradua to give young people from the Niger Delta an opportunity to solve the Niger Delta problem. And the exciting moment of that experience was that whereas the military has spent millions and billions of naira and ammunitions in trying to quash the same crisis in Niger Delta, it took simple negotiations, and all those catching of ammunitions were dropped in without one cannon fired. So we were given an opportunity. If we were looked at as young people who had no ideas, probably arrested, then we will still have the Niger Delta crisis, hammering on the Boko Haram crisis. Of course, there will be no country at this point. So I think that it is about opening up windows for young people, not selected young people. Most times you see orchestrated programs where they gather young people, specially selected to come and talk about special things, programs for them to say. We're talking about young people with ideas, living their dreams, and opportunity provided for them. That's how I look at it. And once they begin to listen and assess information from young people, government will be able to phrase or program its policy in a manner that will reflect the future, because the young people are actually the future.
Well, Dr. Kiyo, just to take this again as to the appropriate platform for articulating the youth agenda for our country, the student union movement used to be a very viable crucible for producing and shaping the youth leaders of our country. There are so many examples, whether they were students here or whether they were students abroad. In the pre-independence days, for instance, the African Students' Union in the UK, which had Alhaji Femi Okunu and later Chief Tayo Akpata, they were all very vibrant. They were persons in their 20s. But for some decades, as we have seen in this country, the student union movement appears to have lost its way as a viable pressure group that is not tainted, as we also have identified, by issues of integrity and maladjustment.
Okay, incidentally, I was student union president of the Great University of Benin. I was much younger then, a couple of years back, and Obasanjo was president then. And we had, I actually saw that some of my colleagues across the country had no vision. They were just about name and money and political yes-manism. But even in that, I got my baptism of fire of activism from being the student union president of the most corrosive university in sub-Saharan Africa, University of Benin. And we drove a lot of policies that I think those legacies have outlived my tenure as student union president. But I agree with you totally that the National Association of Nigerian Students is moribund. It needs to be reworked. Politicians need to stay away and allow students evolve. What we have seen, even in my time, it was a serious battle getting to put a man's president because there was presidential interference. And then students have been corrupted with money. And we were in Abuja, we were in Maiduguri, and there was conflict everywhere. And I think until and otherwise, leadership evolved by itself in the universities, where vice chancellors do not have roles and who become student union president, students throw up their leader, and then they are given an opportunity to excel. And the Nigerian student movement is also allowed to throw out their leaders, guided, of course, by security agencies to avoid conflicts of courts and all that related matters. And then we begin to groom leaders. But what we have now are political yes men who probably have political godfathers micromanage into becoming man's president, and so they do the bidding of the government of the day. The student movement is supposed to be proactive, to criticize abnormal policies of government, and any government that is not criticized will not do well. And the students provide a neutral platform for that, not partisan criticism that may be biased, because the student body is supposed to be for all. And I think until we allow students to begin to provide leadership, some schools, for instance, have banned student unionism. That won't solve the problem. We need to mold, like you said, young leaders from the universities. And that's why it's called a university. The best of the best should be trained through the university processes. And I can tell you, most of the private universities have no unions. So you have people who emerge, of course, without no practical experience about activism, about articulating for themselves what is right. They have been ruled through a process, just like kindergarten children. And so they will have this, of course, kindergarten problem even out there. We need to erect the student movement. And, of course, every other, the National Youth Council itself. I think strongly it needs to be reviewed. Sometimes you have 2-3 presidents of the National Youth Council, and then the one that is popular is the one that the presidency is working with. Why should we have that? So we need to work our ways about youth and youth leadership if this country needs to get it right. The government also needs to open up windows for young people to begin to participate and you know, allow. I was listening to Herbert, and I was impressed with the caliber of young people emerging from crossover state. Someone in the Senate at 30, someone, a former governor at a very young age, and someone, a commissioner at 20-something. It doesn't happen in so many other climes. You can still see people of 50 trying to be councillors, for instance. In Delta State, what we have are a lot of young people becoming councillors, yeah, and then a few young people being commissioners working. But the space needs to be opened for more young people to get involved. And like I said, they're full of energy, they're full of, as young persons, we were desirous of changing the processes, we're willing to venture into new challenges and new opportunities. Sitting back here as a local government chairman, I possibly will be the youngest who has been local government chairman in my place over the period. What I have done, I have dared to transform the place in line with Mr. President's transformation agenda, you know, stepwisely, working with.
Dr. Kia, we'll return to you shortly. We'll return to you shortly because Honorable Daniel Asukwo has been itching to respond to some of the issues we have raised, and he's right here in the studio. You have the floor.
Yes, I want to appreciate all the issues that Dr. Kia has raised. And one of the fundamental things he has spoken about that is affecting the generational change in power and politics as it comes to youth is the integrity issue. We have a university system today where we know that the kind of graduates we're churning out from a university are not real graduates. They're not real graduates because the content, there's no content in them. And you know, if the university is supposed to be a molding, environment, we can't even mold graduates that could represent themselves at that capacity. They're being allowed. They allow themselves to be influenced by the government of the day, as he said. The student unionism, as he puts it, it's been compromised completely today. It is true. We politicians have gone in there because we actually have identified the numbers existing there, and of course the energy existing in that sector. So we have gone in there to politicize. And I think that, just like he said, there would be no better youthful population to take over government that the players right now would want to make space for them if they don't have integrity, because the process of mentoring is very important. Like I said earlier on, they need to be patient. They need to be focused in what they want to learn. Because if you want in the university where you're supposed to, make your leaders from yourselves, get a proper direction on what you want to achieve, you cannot criticize the man who pays you. They say he pays the piper dictates the tune. So it's completely impossible when a leader, whether elective or appointed, is not doing well. How dare you come to speak that he's not doing well when he knows that the envelopes are being passed over to you. Whatever you are, somebody contributed in making it. So I think that we should help our youths by trying to allow them to evolve their own processes, allow them to make their own leaders so that they will be able to give constructive criticism of what government is doing, what their leaders are doing, even in the university system. I think that it's only when you allow constructive criticism that you actually have opportunity to even perform better as a leader or someone in position of authority. So I agree with most of the points he has said. It's actually a thing of concern. It's not just a thing that the youths have to work out for themselves. We as parents and as leaders and of those who are concerned about the nation Nigeria for today and tomorrow should also, I'm sure, take out time to take excerpts into these critical areas that we have identified as the things that are militating against the self-confidence that the Nigerian people want to transfer power to the youths.
Okay, Honorable Asukwo and Dr. Chris Akiyo, we'll quickly take a short break and then we'll return to continue with our conversation. Please stay with us.
We'll get school uniforms whiter, and it is the tough stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Chickens! Hot period lemon. Just Chickens! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and pot puree fragrances, the newest and freshest way to chickens.
I've called our women because our pastoral land should be our pastoral. Those who are going to be farmers, to be
On the TV,
can't you see us in the meeting?
Wallahi, I see plenty people. Wallahi, they show you one time. I know they go show them again. Wallahi,
Musa, they call TV.
On the TV.
Wonderful.
We have a total of 4,900,000
I look at. Wallahi, we must do our most. Everybody must attend our town rally in North Central, Northwest, and Northeastern Zone.
Yawa! I will feel cry go around the town. Wallahi, yalla at once. Yeah, kowa jama'a mai gari yana gayyatar kowa da kowa a fada. Mai gari ya gaishe ku. If you are informed, ko da yaro jariri na goye a baya. Mai gari inviting you a majalisa an jima saboda ana gayyatar
Oh yeah, Turn Northern Nigerian rallies, Yafara Soseifa, North Central people, not West people, not to people. The town rally they will not to now Saturday September 13th, Saturday September 28th, and Saturday September 27th. Kawaii. President Goodluck Jonathan don't do us better. Wallahi, make we join other multitudes of Nigerians who thank him well and join for the demand. Turn Northern Nigerian rallies. Now we go begin rally the main rally. Well past other rallies.
This message is brought to you courtesy Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Done for One Vision, Nigeria.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria GMN on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And now back to Benin, where we have Dr. Chris Ekiyo. Dr. Chris Ekiyo, I personally consider you as one of the fortunate few to have led the youth arm of the Ijaw Congress, but particularly privileged to have met with the former president to project your visions. But there are many more Nigerian youth who do not have this opportunity, who are disadvantaged in all ramifications. So how can they have a chance in a democratic process?
Okay, basically, if you remember when I started talking, I said, if you don't bend backwards, no one is going to ride your back. As youths, we must begin to understand that we decide the defining processes for power game. What that means is that we turn out more to vote, we stay longer at the polling units, and we can demand for vote count and all that. Now, but we must first believe in ourselves and project ourselves to be able to aspire. So when one of us is entrusted with integrity in an office, we must already run that one and follow through to make sure we begin to put our people slowly in power to win the confidence of the larger Nigerian population that young people can actually do it better. Now, that's where the youth need to come in. Now, for a government, just like there's a deliberate effort under President Jonathan to ensure that women are in power, there must be also further effort. The president has tried. I can see a lot of young people being appointed. In fact, to me, the current Minister of Aviation is young and energetic, and I hope he's not going to disappoint Nigerians because he's going to explore opportunities. Yes, I've had people say, what is the road safety officer doing in aviation? And I laugh because I understand that politics is perhaps the only profession that you do not need a previous experience. You need to put up the experience together and deliver in line with the vision which you are set to give. But I expect that the president needs to open up the coast more, get more young people in more strategic places to be able to reach out to deliver for the youths. Now, we also must, as young people, begin to ask ourselves the question, how do we fit in? I listened carefully when Honorable Dan was talking about integrity. Yes, young people without integrity will never be considered. So we must rework the process of building our integrity in everything that we're doing, so we'll be given an opportunity to be trusted with responsibility. That's the calling for the youth. And as a young person, I have not rested. I've been working with a lot of organizations, and we have what we call the Integrity Initiative Group. We're working with young people to make sure that they say what they mean and do what they say. And my friend Moses Siasia, with the young professionals, is also doing the same thing, mobilizing young people and telling them that we can do it differently. Yes, everyone must not be in the politics, so young people who find themselves in places of work must also put their integrity on the table and work in such a manner that when they are no more, they will be remembered for what they have done where they were. And that's how I've always lived my own part. If you go to University of Benin, it's many years now, but I'm sure my name still rings a bell for the few things we did with integrity. In the Jury Council, of course, it's also a couple of years, 6 years gone. People still remember me as one who came. I had the opportunity anyway to carry arms if I wanted to do bunkering if I wanted to, but were they the proper things to do? The answer was no. I chose the path of peace, and it's going to live long after me. So my calling for young people is that wherever you find yourself, if you were a sweeper, you need to sweep so well that when you are no longer there, they say, there was a sweeper that swept so well. And that's the only way we can live the Nigerian dream as young people, doing our best wherever we find ourselves, in whatever little. Like you said, everybody cannot see the president. And you don't need to see the president anyway. I have not seen Goodluck since he's been president. I have not gone to see him. I have seen Yaradua. But that doesn't mean that I will not play my part as a young Nigerian. I don't have to see him because I really don't have anything to present before him, to discuss with him. But if I have a role to play as a youth, I will do that so well that I'll be remembered for playing my part. And that's the calling I give to young people in Nigeria.
Well, Dr. Ekiyo, let's still stay with you. There are a number of thoughts that are running through my head. We were talking about the vitality of the youth. Chido Achebe wrote his bestseller, Things Fall Apart, when he was in his late 20s. And today, I mean, we all know the impact of Things Fall Apart. But in one of my earlier questions to you, and this is something that I would also like Honorable Dan to respond to, I raised the issue of maladjustment. Unfortunately, it appears, I mean, this is actually the fault of the older generation, because if you say you have maladjusted youth, maladjusted children, that is because of their upbringing, and that's the responsibility of the parents. we saw, for at least maybe a generation or two of students, whose lives were shaped by cultism. And cultism is also a form of impunity, which derives also from the larger society, where you do anything and you get away with it. We have also seen that generation now getting into the wider society and saying that the situation is quite different. And therefore, they remain maladjusted. What is in their heads? What is it they are bringing to the table? How can they be change agents in competitive politics and therefore revitalizing our society? What do you think we can do to this generation that is out there now in the society and is obviously maladjusted?
I think in every society, what the output or the outcome of people in society is a reflection of the society itself. Be it Nigeria, America, Europe, everywhere you have maladjusted people. Some, because they are overpowered by their government, so they are not able to fend for themselves. Some, because they are neglected by their government, so they have opted for radical or alternative means of survival. Some, of course, like you already said, bad parentage. But it's not, I always say that the individual will decide for himself what he or she wants to be. And like I said, none of us had parents with silver spoon anyway. We all struggled to be where we were. We chose what we wanted. We were all in the universities. You opt to be a cultist if you wanted to, or you were coerced to be a cultist because you chose bad friends. Reasons, a lot of reasons. And there are some people who, of course, have been cultists, but have lived well, even though they were in a cult. So it's a reflection of the society. Now, in addressing the problem of these maladjusted people, we must create young role models who will mentor or model these people and rekindle hope. And I say this because we had youth in the Niger Delta. The vogue then was, I need to get a gun, be a general, be in the creek, get a gunboat, shoot out people and kidnap. And the role models were those who started it. And then I became RYC president, and we created a new platform of superior logical dialogue, of non-violence, and we modeled the critical mass of 600 youths, working with Diden Timi Alabi as MD of NDDC, and we showcased those ones as people who have transformed, and that there are larger opportunities in being transformed. And then we made ourselves models of society, and we became role models for some of those who willfully turned out their arms and became converted. Now, you must have young people who you will say, I've been given an opportunity to excel, and so they have excelled, and they open up windows to say, you can also be like me, just only if you can readjust, and we give you an opportunity. And I say this because I see also in Delta State, for instance, in the councillorship pool, in my local government, where we have had people done primaries and all that lately, we have seen some people I can describe as maladjusted youths now getting to be councillors. The burden of becoming a legislator will transform them automatically because they will have to answer to their people at the grassroots. Sometimes leadership comes with its burden, responsibility comes with its burden. So in dealing with this maladjusted youth, my own opinion would be that we need to mentor and model some available youth with integrity in a way and manner that will provide mentorship and inroads for those maladjusted youths. We may not be able to change all of them, but certainly we'll get a few or more, 50% of them transforming.
Dr. Kia, we'll probably come to you for the last question in a moment, but Honorable Daniel Asuku, he talked about creating role models. And in politics, the assumption is that money is power. Now, of course, you use money to do things, and we have seen even youths who are doing things and changing things with money. So there's this confusion, of role modeling and godfatherism. Where is the line?
Well, I think that, just like Dr. Kio said, I mean, he's been a very interesting contributor. And, makes me remember the energy we put in when we were younger. Really, the system, that means the government, the people, all of us, must make deliberate effort to create role models. If we want the Nigerian society, the Nigerian people, to actually have a situation where in the next few years we can prop up a generation of young and purposeful leaders, then there must be a deliberate effort from top down, not down up, because there's nothing down to look up to. It has to be from top up. And this is, just like he said, we must stay away from activities, youth activities, where money plays a vital role to influence the choice. Because if you need to allow these young people to make their mistakes and learn from them, and the money politics, the godfatherism wouldn't help that. Of course, we can use the godfatherism position or the political leadership position to identify those that have been mentored, so to say. It could be skewed, you know, out of personal or selfish identification process, but the issue is that that person is still a youth, that person is still a young person that has to be a role model. And of course, we should be bold as a people to say that we've made mistakes where mistakes have been made, especially where godfathers make choice for their personal or selfish interest that does not represent the interest of the overall people. We should be able to put it up so that such mistakes will not, of course, reoccur. So I believe that it is everybody's problem. We have to do what is right. We have to change the values. The values are wrong, so we need to change the values, especially the attitude to what a honest living should be. I mean, many youths these days, they want to be politicians, just like he said. The interesting thing he said about, you know, the maladjusted youth becoming a councillor, that the burden changes them. He's very correct. I see a lot of that too in my community, my local government, my, you know, where gang leaders, or should I say, because gang leaders down there could be seen as activists, you know, has actually metamorphosed into being councillors, into having one responsibility or the other. The burden of that response actually helps to change them, but it still needs a lot of mentoring, even at that stage.
Yeah. What are the ingredients? What are the ingredients of political mentoring? You've been a politician. What, in your opinion, are the ingredients? I ask this question against the background of widespread experience. For instance, that the political parties hold their meetings, for instance, that's so-called meetings, and the next thing is the youth leader is told, look, a decision has been taken, pass the decision down the line. The voice is never heard from bottom up. In your opinion, what are the ingredients of political mentoring that will be very useful in harnessing the vast energies of our youth?
Quickly, Honorable Asoko, because that will be our last question for you before we take from Benin.
Yes. Yes, I think that the mentoring from our own end of as political players or leaders or role models, as the case may be, is that we need to live by good example. If we have to bequeath these good attributes to the younger people for them to want to make us as role models, then we should be able to live up to the expectation of the bidding, as people say, global best practice. Being honest, saying what is right at the right time, doing what is expected to build a society, in most cases, people want to actually elaborate on the bad sides of what the political class have been able to bring to the fore. Mistakes, yes, are made, but I think that if we have to give good mentoring to this young people, it's not blowing up the negative aspect, it's blowing up the positive aspect, which, as we say today, I'll always want to use the example of what a young leader like our president is doing. Older people, I wouldn't say they made mistakes. It had to do with conservatism. You know, the older ones, they don't want to change, but the younger ones want to try things that are new, take risks and
Honorable
all that.
Daniel Asokwo,
So I believe that...
I beg, I just have to interrupt you at this point, but well, thank you for your very insightful contributions to Good Morning Nigeria. And Dr. Chris Akio in Benin City, many thanks to you. We indeed have enjoyed your contributions, and we've all found your contributions worth the while. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Back to Abuja, we'll take a short break. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue in a moment.
There is an Ebola virus epidemic in some West African countries. The Nigerian government wants you to be aware and watch out against the spread of Ebola in your community. Help keep our country safe. Refer anybody coming into Nigeria from any other West African country to a hospital for proper medical screening. And watch out for severe cases of fever, headaches, diarrhea, chest and abdominal pain, sore throat, cough, red eyes, and bleeding from the eyes, ears, and nose. Protect yourself. Wash your hands regularly with soap and sanitizer. Avoid contact with the blood, urine, feces, or saliva of animals like bats, monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzees, or infected persons. The Ebola virus is deadly. Don't catch it. Don't spread it. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Put a cup of jig in the water, we'll get school uniforms whiter, and it is the tough stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Chickens! Papyrian lemon. Just Chickens! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and papyrian fragrances, the newest and freshest way to chickens.
All right, and talking sports now. In that world, our sports desk is monitoring the progress of Nigerian players across the world who are continuing with brilliant performance for their various clubs. And Musbah Danwahab is confirming to us that the country has got too many talented players for the national teams to rule the world.
All right, welcome. Let's talk sport now. This morning, we'll be keeping track of Nigerian players across the world who are putting up impressive performance for their various clubs. Obafemi Martins is one of them. Let's see those who are really outstanding.
We start this week action of Nigerian players in the diaspora in Denmark as Midtjylland maintained their grip of the top spot in the Danish Superliga with a 3-2 win over OB Odense, courtesy of Igbon's hat-trick. The Nigerian has now taken his goal tally to 5 in the current season. He opened the scoring for his side
wrong at all. I listen to the music, you know, because my ancestors came from this great, wonderful place called Africa. The rhythms I like, the feel I like. So I learned the melodies, and then I found out what the words meant. Some of them, you know, how great is our God? He's a great God. And I put them to my sax, and when I start playing, I was like, oh man, I like this vibe. I like this.
Just like the theme of the event, glory filled the atmosphere as Nigeria's Frank Edward, Kingsley Ike, and America's Micah Stampley took to stage with their electrifying ministration. Climaxing the night of the gospel music ministration was the Tehillah Company, as they took the congregation to an ecstatic level of singing, dancing and clapping, and an overall satisfaction.
It's just a blessing and an honor to be a part and experience the glory in this house.
There's glory in the house because the atmosphere is something else.
Wow, it's awesome. It's just an event that takes place once in a lifetime.
It's been wonderful.
What a way to start the week. Awesome, beautiful, and quite interesting. Thanks, Bosse, for that. Time is not always our friend on this show, but do keep it with us tomorrow for something you don't want to miss. Hope to see you then. Meanwhile, have a good day.
Thank you, Ngozi and Bosse, for that bit of breath of fresh air, as you called it. All right, that will be all on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. It's the Tuesday edition. We do hope you enjoyed your stay with us. I am Claire Adelabu Abdurasak, and do have a wonderful day.
And I am Kingsley Osadolo. It's been a pleasure having you tune in to us on the live program which came to you on the network service of the NTA. I wish you the very best of the rest of the day. See you tomorrow.
Many lives and destroyed valuable property. We are in a season when we all need to come together and agree to have peace. Peace comes from God, but peace also comes to men and women who say to themselves, we believe in a country, we believe in one another, we believe that we can live together, irrespective of our tribes, irrespective of our religion.
It's for all of us now to wake up, tighten our belts more, push insecurity out of the lives of our people, and have a very stable, free, and developed society where everybody will be at peace and free to live my life.
One nation bound in freedom. Peace and unity.
Nigeria, moving forward together. This message is brought to you by Nigeria Rebirth Initiative.
Nigeria needs peace and stability. Achieve our goals in unity. We are brothers and sisters, we've lived together for years now. Say no to violence now. Sing it with me. Peace, peace, peace. Let's all embrace peace. We are brothers and sisters, we've lived together for years now. Say no to violence now. No religion preaches violence. We need understanding and tolerance. You can be you, I can be me, that's the way it should be. Say no to violence now, sing it one more time. Peace, peace, peace. Let's all embrace peace. In the family, in schools, at work, everywhere. Say no to violence now.
Jama'a ta da sallama barkamu da haka.
Da labaranmu na duniya.
Shugaban kasa Goodluck Jonathan zai fara ziyara aiki zuwa kasashen Switzerland.
Ohandioma Ndiamala, Nigeria.